It's week 9. We've got every quarterback, every tight end, and even DST. So before Sunday, let's break down these updated rankings for week 9 of the 2024 NFL season. Welcome to E&M Fantasy Football, where I combine industry-leading data, Vegas sportsbooks, and expert analysis to provide you with optimal weekly rankings for the utmost accuracy when setting your weekly lineups in your fantasy football league. I'm writing this on Thursday night for Friday's video. Expect more videos every week for the other unit groupings like wide receiver and running back. And click the playlist in the top right for all the updated rankings for week 9. We begin the rankings with quarterbacks. Sportsbooks have these QBs projected to go over 260 total yards this week. They are Jalen Hurts, 257 over-under, 7.5 point favorites against the league worst secondary Jacksonville Jaguars. Josh Allen, 274 over-under, 6 point favorites against Miami. Lamar Jackson, 263 over-under, 9 point favorites over Denver. Jaden Daniels, 276 over-under, good God, 4 point favorites against the New York Giants. Joe Burrow, 262 over-under, 7 point favorites versus the sad Las Vegas Raiders. Jordan Love, who's definitely going to play, 260 over-under with a 48 high-scoring total versus Detroit's 27th worst secondary. And Dak Prescott, 264 over-under in the highest scoring game of the week versus Atlanta. They are the third highest passing offense in the league. Remember that. Vegas tells us these top 7 guys are in the best position to go over 260 total yards with their arms and legs in excellent matchups with high scoring totals. They are your undisputed S tier for week 9. A tier is for the rest of the elite quarterbacks projected for 240 to 250 total yards. Any of these guys could finish top 12. And we'll start off with Dak's opponent in the highest scoring game, Kirk Cousins. 246 over-under. Once again, it's a 52-point total, the biggest of the week. And Atlanta are favorites. Kirk Cousins has thrown for 263 yards per game and nearly 2 touchdowns per game. He faces the below-average 20th Cowboys pass defense. Lock him in. Patrick LaVon Mahomes II. 243 over-under, 8-point favorites against the Buccaneers. 249 yards per game in his past 3 games. He gets one of the worst pass defenses in the league, the Buccaneers, at 29th. They are 8-point favorites. Good Lord, he's going to be just fine. Sam Darnold, 254 over-under, 5-point favorites against the Colts. 238 yards per game in his last 4 games. It's not fantastic, but the Colts secondary is 24th. Minnesota's O-line is top 12 according to PFF. So as long as he can stay upright, he should be able to carve up Indianapolis. No problem. And we'll go back-to-back with opposing quarterbacks in a close heater set for 45 points. Tyler and Caleb at 11 and 12. 255 total yards for Kyler and 250 total yards for Caleb. Murray's rushing is significant compared to Caleb's, while Caleb's passing is better than Kyler's. Williams is bottom 10 in passing, but the Cardinals are bottom 10 in pass defense. And for Kyler, he's bottom 10 in passing as well, while the Bears are top 11 in pass defense. So it's going to be a close one. And even though Chicago's defense is better than the Cardinals, they are 1-point favorites. This should be a good one to watch. And next up, ErvinandM.com. ErvinandM.com is my company my best friend and I started in 2020. We literally make everything ourselves by hand. We have earrings, rings, necklaces, bracelets, tie clips, apparel, and more. over a dozen curated gemstones and 100 handcrafted products. If you need a gift or something special for yourself, use the promo code in the description, find something you love, and buy it today. Back to the video. Support me, support you. Subscribe to the show for free. But if you like looking good and spending money, go to ervinnim.com and buy a gift for someone or yourself, you selfish, arrogant son of a bitch. And we'll go back to back with opposing quarterbacks again in another close absolute heater set at 48 total. Geno Smith and Fat Stafford. 253 passing for Geno and the number one passing offense in the league, facing off against the league average Rams pass defense as 1-point underdogs. While Stafford and the Rams are the 1-point favorites and league average for passing yards in an offense, while Seattle is league average against defending the pass. That is precisely why this game is said to be one of the highest scoring of the week, and it's worth noting Stafford's the highest positive regression candidate simply because, like we saw last week, all his weapons are back. This one's going to be a good one. DK Metcalf should be back too. Oh boy. From here, and I know it happened quickly, but it's your last chance for viability. These are decent passing offenses, but they have horrible matchups on the other side of the ball from S and A tier. All of these guys are pretty much overwhelming, no competition. And their opponents are down here. It's pretty drastic between tiers this week. Sportsbooks have these quarterbacks projected for 240 to 230 passing yards. 15, Jared Goff. 233 over-under. They're 3.5-point favorites with a 48 total against Green Bay. In spite of being a run-first team, Goff and the Lions are the 11th highest passing team on the season. He's averaged 242 yards per game, so better than his line. And Green Bay is 19th against the pass, so don't be scared. Bo Nix, 242 over-under. The Broncos are the 27th worst passing offense. However, he threw for 284 yards against Carolina. And this week, he gets Baltimore's league worst 32nd pass defense. So why isn't he higher? Well, as 10-point underdogs, Vegas says none of what I just said matters. They're going to get boat raced in real life. But Nix has a chance in fantasy in spite of all this at 16. Baker Mayfield at 17. 240 over under. Do you know who's the second highest passing offense in the league? It's Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers. Now don't get too excited because they are 8-point underdogs in this matchup with Kansas City, who are league average against the pass. So just like Knicks in real life, they're going to get boat raced, but in terms of fantasy, Baker should be able to put up some numbers while playing from behind. Tua Tagovailoa is what I want to say, but apparently it's Tungavailoa, even though there's no N. I don't know. It's very confusing. This one's tough. Tua, when healthy, has one of the highest passing offenses with some of the most dynamic weapons and scheme in the league. It's as possible, though, that the Bills turn the ball over and the Dolphins play lights out as it is that Josh Allen stomps them. And Tua and the Dolphins just need another week to get right. So, GL. Joe Flacco at 19. 231 over-under. I think is maybe a bit low. But Anthony Richardson drafters, I stand with you in tears, but every night has its dawn, and our dawn is Joe Flacco. He faces the Vikings' bottom three secondary. They are 30th against the pass. I mean, this is his chance in terms of fantasy to let the air yards rip and let Downs and MPJ do some work. So are they going to win? Almost certainly not. They are 5-point dogs, but that doesn't mean that the Colts won't generate fantasy points. Could be worse. And Jameis Winston at 20, 242 over-under. What was previously one of the worst passing offenses in the league has a breath of fresh seafood air as the king of crab and YOLO go balls takes on the Chargers' 9th best pass defense. This is going to be a much better test for Jameis for us to really see what he's actually got. Should be a close game with only a 2-point spread. Once again, you could do worse. Trevor Lawrence at 21, 230 over-under. The Jaguars are a league average passing offense, and Philly is the 10th best against the pass. Trevor and company are 7-point dogs in this one. He's averaged his line at 229 yards per game, but he's deservedly at the end of the tier this week. It's not good. It's bad. This week has been the craziest spreads through almost every matchup. There's only a few games that are going to be close. But from here, it gets worse. It's RIP. It's less than 220 yards. They're unstartable. Let's rattle them off. Derek Carr, Justin Herbert, Daniel Jones, Mason Rudolph, Gardner Minshew, Bryce Young. You know what I'm saying? Buy something from my store. Like this ring or these bracelets. I got a hat over there, but I'm not going to get up and get it for you. Everybody. Everyone else, you throw them in here. Devastating. That's your top quarterbacks. Let's do tight ends. We have 6 S-tier tight ends this week. They are Brock Bowers, 67 over-under, 67 yards per game. Travis Kelce, 61 over-under, 66 yards per game. Trey McBride, 52 over-under, 63 yards per game. David Njoku, praise God, 53 over-under, 56 yards per game. Cade Otton, 45 over-under, but 56 yards per game. And nobody would have expected it, but he's been playing well. Kyle Pitts, 46 over-under, with a solid 52 yards per game. These top 6 tight ends are all projected to be in the best position by Vegas Sportsbooks to go over 50 receiving yards. That is the highest amount for Week 9. They are your elite S-tier tight ends, undisputed. The next tier is for the rest of the tight end ones, projected for about 40 to 50 receiving yards. Any of these guys could finish top 10. They just have lower floors than the guys above. Jake Ferguson at 7. 46 over-under, 44 yards per game. The Cowboys are the 3rd highest passing offense in the league currently. And Big Ferg gets 7 targets per game. And the Falcons in the past 4 weeks have allowed every tight end to go over to the tune of 44, 49, 65, and 81 yards against them. Lock them in. And Cole Kmet at 8. Only a 31 over-under, but he's averaged 43 yards per game. He was uncharacteristically targeted just once against Washington this past week, but he remains one of Williams' most dependable targets and most explosive players. In the past 4 weeks, Arizona has allowed 3 out of 4 tight ends to go over. He should be fine. And Zach Ertz, so good it hurts. In his past 3 games, he's been elite with 62 yards per game. His line's set at 35, but he's averaged 43 yards per game. The Giants have allowed 5 out of 7 tight ends to go over against him. We should expect to see more of the same with JD5 and easy button Ertz. Hunter Henry at 10, 36 over-under, 45 yards per game. No respect. These guys don't get any respect. They deserve it. Henry has also been elite in the past 4 weeks to the tune of 52 yards per game. The Titans have allowed 4 out of 5 tight ends in the past 5 weeks to go over, and though this is the most disgusting game of the week, it's set at like 38 total. Henry should continue to be a pillar of the Patriots offense. And we'll go back to back with opposing tight ends in one of the highest scoring games of the week. Tucker Kraft and Sam Laporta at 11 and 12. The People's Champ, unfortunately, gets the Lions this week, and in classic old school football fashion, they excel at a few things: pounding the rock, stopping the run, and stopping tight ends. Only one tight end has managed over 26 yards since week 2 against the Lions. I mean, Jordan Love is almost certainly going to play, but for Kraft, this will almost certainly be his toughest matchup yet. For Laporta, 40 over under, 39 yards per game. 43 yards per game for Tucker Kraft. I don't know if I mentioned that. For Laporta, in his past 4 games, he's managed 44 yards per game. Not bad at all. He's improving. Borderline elite since week 4. But the Packers are stiff competition over the middle. They've only allowed 2 tight ends themselves to go over 36 yards all season. It'll be a must-watch game. They should be okay. Evan Ingram at 13, 45 over under, 45 yards per game, albeit mostly from one outstanding game. Ingram hoodwinked us in week 6, and ever since, he's averaged 35 yards per game. Even with all the receiver injuries, he still only managed 36 yards, which is more of a statement on the Jaguars' offense. The Eagles have allowed every real tight end to go over against them, so if the Jags haven't completely given up, Ingram has a chance here. And Dalton Kincaid at 14, 41 over under, 41 yards per game. This is kind of where the yard averages and lines start to separate. Kincaid has fell short in 5 out of 8 games, while Miami has only allowed 2 tight ends to go over 32 yards. He only gets 5 opportunities a game. The Bills are favorites in this one, and one could argue that Miami's pass defense, in spite of statistics, hasn't really been tested. I mean, he's at 14. It's practically the middle. It's only worse from here. B tier. These are the last viable tight ends. They have far more volatility and lower floors. This tier is projected for 30 to 40 yards. And at 15, it's Noah Fant. He's played well in the past 4 weeks, going for 43 yards per game in those most recent contests. To make things even better, every single tight end has went over when facing the Rams this year, so he should be just fine. Take the over. TJ Hawkinson, 38 yards per game. He comes in at 16 this week. It appears TJ is back. It's easy to forget. This man right here was 4th overall to finish last season. Do you know how many yards per game he had? 64. That's right. TJ Hawkinson had 64 yards per game last season. So he's a good tight end. However, that was with Kirk Cousins and not Sam Darnold. And it's his first game back from major injury. It remains to be seen what remains in his tank and if he can be Sam Darnold's much-needed easy button. I mean, a 38 over-under is a really good sign. It's still risky, though. Johnny Smith, 27 over-under, 36 yards per game. He's actually played pretty well this season compared to expectation. However, the Bills have stopped 5 out of 7 tight ends this season from going over. I mean, odds are he goes under, but it's worth mentioning he faced Buffalo in week 2, and he went for 53 yards. They might not let him do that again, though. Will Dissly at 18. We have a picture for him. He gets a little bit of respect. He's questionable. Chargers are not contenders. 30 over under, 33 yards per game. But Dissly has also played well, going for 41 yards per game in his last 4 games. So not bad. However, he gets the Browns this week, who have only allowed a single tight end to exceed 19 yards against them since the start of the season. So that's not good. And we'll go back to back with the Baltimore boys, Andrews and Likely at 19 and 20 to finish the tier. Mark's line is set at 36 this week while averaging 33 yards per game. And Likely's line is super low at just 20 yards, in spite of him also averaging the same amount as Andrews at 33 as well. They face the Broncos, who have allowed 63% of tight ends to go over through 8 weeks. However, with the addition of Deontay Johnson, who's looking like he's going to play, I mean, the entire offense in terms of fantasy takes another hit with yet another way to split up the target share. So, flip a coin. From here, though, these tight ends, I mean, it's RIP. They're practically unstartable. It's the rest, and it's less than 20 yards. Jatavion Sanders, Mike Gesicki, Chigankwonkwo, Parkinson, Kolkatera, Taysom, Jawan, anybody and everybody. They all go there. I'll throw your DST rankings on screen now for all the sick and infirm, and I'll put your quarterbacks and tight ends back on the screen as well. Look it over, and sincerely, I hope this helps everyone watching. Thank you for your time. Subscribe. Only 7% are subscribed, and we get over 200 returning viewers every single video. That's double the current sub count. Support me, support you. Sub and turn on the post notifications so you can see all the videos each week before submitting your lineups. It's free, so it's a good value. Buy something from my store and watch some more videos.